The first preface of Lent reminds us that by God's gracious gift, this time is given us so that with minds made pure, more eagerly intent on prayer and the works of charity, we may be led to the fullness of the joy God wishes to give us. And it demands a response. Love always demands a response. You see, the reading from Joel is full of urgency. We're to come back with all our hearts, the communities to be called together, all of them, even small children, even those like bride and groom, normally left undisturbed. For as Paul reminds the Corinthians, here and now is the favorable time, the day of salvation. Here, now, is our opportunity to turn back to God. And yet in my experience at least, the reality of Lent in practice is rather less exciting. Maybe a bit of mild penance, some token effort at giving more time to prayer, less to immediate self-gratification, and, give a little more to those in need. A sort of spiritual gym session, like, I've ever had those moments in the gym where you've been there for an hour, but maybe you've only spent about, maybe the bulk of that time walking on the treadmill for like a couple miles an hour, just to say you were there, It enables us to feel slightly better about ourselves, but not fundamentally changing anything. As the poet T.S. Eliot puts it in the beginning and end of his Ash Wednesday sequence, because I do not hope to turn, although I do not hope to turn, although I do not hope. How often do we begin with good intentions and then stall? Perhaps our lack of success points to our unwillingness to be disturbed, to decisively accept the invitation God is extending to us, because we're too much tied to our false securities, the idols we have constructed. Maybe we need to learn how we might free ourselves from all that holds us back from God, and the way to do that is to die to self. To that false sense that in its insecurity recoils from others and from God into the idolatry of self-sufficiency. And that is where some of the Lenten practices can be so helpful to slowly do a little bit more each day, to figure out, how is God calling me to die to self today? To do some good, practical, tangible acts of dying to self a little bit every day. It's interesting in the gospel, Jesus takes it for granted that his disciples will pray, will fast, and will give alms. Because these were very important aspects of Jewish religious life in Jesus' time. But what he's criticizing is the grandiose displays of what should be private religious acts. That is, even these good practices can be corrupted if they are performed in such a way that they are done to boost our pride, our egos. And so following the way of the Lord Jesus is to learn to sit lightly to the things of this world, for all their beauty and goodness, to refuse to be trapped into setting our hearts on anything less than the love of God. See, giving more time to prayer helps us resensitize ourselves to seeing things from God's perspective. Not the world's, not our own, but from his. From the perspective that privileges the marginalized and the lost. Becoming more sensitive to the needs of others as we become less enslaved to our own desires. Our minds purified helps us more eagerly show charity, show that selfless, self-giving love to others that Jesus showed us was possible if we, like him, live lives oriented to God and are empowered by God's Spirit. And so out of the ashes of our failures and timidities, the fire of God's love can be kindled, enlivening us with the love and the life of God, accepting the gifts he pours out on us and moving closer into his embrace. Our love of him expressed in our love of our neighbors in their need.